You're listening to episode 118 of Lifestyle Locker Radio with Margie Bissinger.
They've done all sorts of studies with happiness. I mean, people live on an average 9 years longer, happier people. There's reduced cortisol, which is the stress hormone, which has so many negative effects on our heart, our blood pressure, everything, and even our bones. Cortisol reduces the bone-building cells. So every aspect of our physiology is affected by cortisol, and we have reduced cortisol when we're happier.
Hi, I'm Dr. Josh Hant, and welcome to Lifestyle Locker Radio, where we help you create an awesome life and lifestyle. From nutrition to fitness, mindfulness to peak performance, and relationships to money mindset, we bring you on an amazing journey to help you unleash your human potential. So here's a little bit about our guest today, Margie. She is a physical therapist and integrative health coach. She teaches happiness and works with clients in prevention and treatment of osteoporosis. She is the author of Osteoporosis, an exercise guide. Margie is a creator of Move Today, which is a statewide program in New Jersey, and Happy Bones, Happy Life, online program for people to prevent and treat osteoporosis and osteopenia. Margie helps people achieve optimal bone health through whole foods, exercise, mind-body relaxation techniques, and happiness training. Margie is also a certified Happy for No Reason trainer and teaches the Happy Me, Happy Life online course and lectures on unconditional happiness. So without further ado, here's our guest today, Margie. All right, everybody, in the locker room today, we've got Margie, and she is an expert in a couple things we're going to share. As you heard in her bio, she's an expert in osteoporosis and an expert in happiness. So I know these are two very different topics, but they do kind of mend together. And so, Margie, welcome, first of all.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, very excited to have you. In pre-show, we were talking about everything. You've been doing this for a long time, right?
Yes,
Teaching happiness, right? And I think this is great. I think our audience is definitely going to vibe with this. Lifestyle is a big topic, and happiness has been coming across my screen, the books I'm reading, a lot, and the people I talk to. So I would love for you to go back into your story about how do you even teach happiness? Like, where does it come from? And then, where you are today with it.
Oh, sure. I'd love to. So it's interesting because I actually, some people are born, we do have a genetic predisposition for happiness. And I was always a happy kid, even when my circumstances were not happy. And that happened when I was 23. I got married, which should have been the most joyful time in my life. And it wasn't, because I found out the person I married had been dating. I found out day 2 in my honeymoon had been dating someone our entire engagement.
God.
Now, we were living in different parts of the country, it was before cell phones. But anyway, I got through that. And I was living in Chicago at that point, working as a physical therapist with chronic pain patients, back pain, neck pain. And they were saying to me, "Oh, you're so happy. What do you do?" And I thought, had they only known what I had just experienced, they wouldn't be saying that. But I realized that somehow what I call now my happiness habits let me get through that with somewhat ease. And I was happy. I wasn't miserable, but they weren't happy. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start teaching them what had helped me so much. And once I started doing that, I just couldn't get over it. Miracles started happening. Back pain started getting better, and people started being happier, and neck pain, and the difference was miraculous to me in how much how much they improved so much faster, and started enjoying life. It was really amazing. And so since that time, that was 30 years ago, I've been incorporating happiness with everybody I work with. It's just part of my treatments and programs. And then recently, a lot of the clients I work with, because I'm also a health coach now too, a lot of the people I work with say, you know what, they only want to come to me for the happiness. And they said, why don't you teach, I teach an osteoporosis course. They said, why don't you teach a happiness class? And so I also have done a lot of work in positive psychology and research myself, and became trained in this wonderful program, Happy for No Reason, to teach that. So I started doing that as well. And I just find that when people incorporate these habits, they're life-changing, and they affect every aspect of their being. And that's why it's so exciting for me to be part of it. And I just light up because I love it, because it's so, you just see the changes, and you just see how you want. At the end of the day, doesn't everybody want to wake up tomorrow a little happier than they are today?
Yeah.
And they
why
can.
not?
That's the good thing. They can. And that's what's so exciting.
So this is interesting. Everybody listening, if you just you rewind 30 seconds there, people that are in chronic pain are working with her, right, as a PT to get better. And then she starts incorporating happiness, and their actual physiology starts to shift. She may have been using the same protocols with her, right, hands-on stuff or whatever you may have been doing, but now we incorporate happiness, and it makes a big shift. So how does that actually happen?
Well, it's unbelievable. They've done all sorts of studies with happiness. I mean, people live on an average 9 years longer, happier people. There's reduced cortisol, which is the stress hormone, which has so many negative effects on our heart, our blood pressure, everything, and even our bones. Cortisol reduces the bone-building cells. So every aspect of our physiology is affected by cortisol, and we have reduced cortisol when we're happier. They've even shown, since I'm a bones person, they've shown that life satisfaction and happiness is correlated with increased bone density.
Okay.
So it's amazing, the physiological responses to happiness. People sleep better. There's just so many different, their immune system improves, less susceptibility to all sorts of things. So it's really a win-win, and you feel better.
Yeah, this is pretty. So in the class you offer, you speak of 7 different pillars of happiness. And what I would love for you to do is, you don't have to spill the beans on everything, because I would love for people to take the course, but you have to spill a little bit of the beans, right? I want you to share. Can you share what some of the 7 pillars are, and maybe just a couple simple, I want people to have practical help, after listening to a show. I mean, they're going to love who you are because you're a very real person, but I want to make sure that our audience can actually do something tomorrow, right, to help them. So go through those pillars, maybe just give like a tidbit of try this tomorrow or today.
Okay, because I believe that too. I mean, I love giving advice and then having people's lives improve. So there's just nothing, I'm sure because you do that all the time. There's just nothing more fulfilling than that. So let's start with the foundation. It's sort of like a house, the pillars. So the foundation for happiness is, I think the most important thing is that you are a victor and not a victim. Because victimhood is the fastest way to unhappiness. And I see this all the time, the oh, poor me. And once you assume that role, you really can't be happy. But once you change it and become a victor and take control of the situation, and the 3 ways that people know, because people think, well, how do I know if I'm a victim? Okay, here goes. The 3 signs of victimhood. Dun, 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 dun.
Let's hear it.
Do you complain? None of us do, right? Complain, complain, blame, and shame. Shame is like self-blame. And those 3 things really can just take down our happiness and rob us of our happiness. And so often just making that shift. And one easy way to do is just be aware of it. You can even have like a jar. Play this game where you have a jar and you put money in every time you blame, shame, or complain, because it can take up a lot of our life, and there's just nothing positive about that.
Yeah.
So I would say that's the biggest thing in the foundation. I mean, there's a lot of things, but one thing that people can easily do is start seeing, are they a victim and are they a victor? And it's interesting because sometimes even, I'll be overwhelmed with a lot that I'm doing. I start feeling bad for myself. And I'm like, what are you doing? You are right in victimhood. And the minute you make that switch, that what can I do to take control of the situation? What can I do to be a victor? And what can I do? It really makes.
Great. That's a good tip. Being aware. First.
Yes. You can even just start being aware and seeing like what part of your day are you complaining and how much of your conversation are you complaining. And it's hard to be happy when you're in that mode.
Yeah, totally.
So that's foundation. The next one is the mind and pillar of the mind. And this one I think is so huge because, ready for this? 80% of our thoughts are negative.
Wow. Okay. That's a big number.
80%. So think, how can you be happy when you're having these negative thoughts all day long? And we have so many thoughts. We have 60,000 thoughts a day. So when we have all of these negative thoughts, so I guess the big tip here is to try to increase the positive thoughts, because we're sort of wired for negativity. Way back when we were, caveman days, we had to be aware of the negatives more than the positives, because if there was a tiger lurking, we could die. But today it's not the same, but we still act the same.
Yeah.
If we get one compliment, we get 20 compliments and one criticism. What do we focus on? What do we let stick to us?
Yeah.
It's the negatives. So the big tip here is to try to increase the positives in your life. And a couple easy things you can do is just sort of look for them. If you're trying to be open to positives, you'll find more. Number one. Number two, when something good happens, savor it. Take it in, absorb it for at least 20 seconds. When someone says to you, oh, that was a great talk you did, or that was amazing, instead of like, it really wasn't so great, say, you know what, thank you. I really worked hard with that, and just absorb the good. Absorb the good. And or if you're on a beach and it's beautiful, just take it all in. Try to maximize all the positive good things. And then the other thing is, when there is a negative, balance it out with 3 positives. So when something, when you really have a negative thought, try to balance it out with 3 positives. Not to live in a Pollyanna state, because I also teach ways that we can get rid of negativity, because people have issues to deal with. So that's not what we're aiming for at all.
Not ignoring things.
No, because you have to deal with it. You can't just push things down, and there are good techniques for that. But I think the key is that so often we just go through, we're looking for the negatives, and we don't see all the positives and wonderful things that are out there. And we do, and even just writing your wins down, like the good things that happen each day, it maximizes that. And so I think
I just want to stop you on this one. That's really interesting. You jump back. I'm going to be nerdy for a second. Like our primal days, like our primal brain is like survive. So you're constantly looking for like that tiger, whatever is going to kill you, like literally kill you. So that's what our brains are wired for. So we're always looking for those things, and we're not looking for like, oh wow, it's a beautiful day outside. Oh wow, it's thank you for letting me know I did a good job, or even giving a compliment even makes you feel good.
It's really true. There's a psychologist named Rick Hansen, and I love this term he coined. He coined Velcro for the negatives, they stick to us, and Teflon for the positives, they ride off.
Yeah.
So they found that happier people have the opposite. The good news is you can change that. I think just one thing I want to say is that when we look at our level of happiness, most people, it's like a thermostat. You have a certain level. And they've shown that when people win the lottery, they're really happy for maybe a year, and then they go back to their baseline level of happiness.
Yeah.
And same thing with tragedies. They're sad, but then they go back. But we can change that baseline level. That's the good news. So that's very exciting.
That's great. All right, next, let's hear. We keep moving. You're climbing the ladder here.
Okay, so we've only gotten to 2.
Yeah.
So then we have the heart. Then we have the pillar of the heart, and that would be gratitude and forgiveness. And that's I guess as a physical therapist, what I see with the muscles. People hold on with the forgiveness.
Yeah, of course.
You probably see this too in your profession. People hold on to, they hold on to things that they just won't forgive people.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like taking poison, expecting the other person to die. Because,
I
right?
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. The reality is it's only hurting you, and you're not condoning what happened. Forgiveness is not condoning what they did was right. It's not, because oftentimes it's not right at all. But you have to just let it go, and you have to just forgive them so you can move on. And I think in my story, with what happened to me, I think that was the biggest thing. One of the biggest things was that, well, number one, I didn't feel like a victim. I moved, and I just didn't want anyone feeling sorry for myself. I moved to a new city, and I just think number one, but also that I forgave him immediately, so I could move on with my life. But I see that with muscles when people decide they're going to do something to forgive. And there's lots of things I talk about. One easy way that would just take a minute is to even write a letter. You write a letter forgiving a person. Don't send it, but just the thought of writing it is very powerful.
That action step is big.
Yeah. So I think, but I see that with the muscles. I see that once people forgive, it's like a load is taken off. And all of a sudden they'll come in and I'm like, oh my goodness, what had happened? And they said, I did this practice that I taught them, about forgiveness, or they decided to forgive this person. And so I've seen huge results with forgiveness.
Yeah. So how do you, I'm just interested, before we keep going, I think this is a really neat way to work with people. How are you branching? How are you going, okay, I come in, I had knee surgery or something, and I have to get all this work, this soft tissue work and this movement and strength work done. How are you bringing in this process of happiness?
Yeah, well, I guess as a physical therapist, now I'm also a health coach, so I do both. So I'd say half the time I spend working with people on nutrition and other things, and stress and happiness. But when I was working with patients, which I still do, while you're working on them, so you can be doing soft tissue, you're talking. And so they'll go through different, that's how it started way back. I was working in orthopedics. And so while you're working, you might be doing a friction massage, or you might be doing mobilization to their joint, you're talking. And so we would just talk about maybe one principle a session, and give them some action steps. It doesn't take long to.
Yeah, of course. Okay, very cool.
Yeah, as a physical therapist, you get to spend a lot of time with people as well.
Yeah.
I was lucky in all the practices that I chose to be in. They weren't like, 20 people. You were seeing like one person at a time.
Yeah.
That's a little unusual, but I did have the time, and I still do. I make sure that I have my own practice, so I can do whatever I want. But, yeah, but it's during treatment that you can.
Okay, very cool. But that's a neat. I like that concept, is you're letting them get beyond their body a little bit.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, very cool. So after the heart, where do we go to?
Okay. So after the heart, we're going to go to the cells in the body.
Okay.
So that's with nutrition, and that's, the body, and basically just you have to have good happiness habits, like sleep, reducing sugar. If you're eating horribly, as that's going to really affect your body chemistry, and it's hard to be happy when you're not nourishing your cells, and when you're not exercising, and when you're not giving yourself good food. So that also is one of the pillars.
Yeah. So everybody, take a test right now. If you are someone that's a sugar junkie, I hope you're not, but if you are, try to eliminate refined sugar for a week and see how you actually. I don't say you're going to feel different, but your mind. See how you think different as well.
It is so, I'm a recovered sugar addict. I at my heart, I'm really a sugar addict, major. And so once I gave up sugar, I had major changes in all sorts of things in terms of my health. But I can relate to everybody, because you just have to stay that way, because it's so easy to fall back. You just have a little sugar here, and then you just get back on that bandwagon, and it's more addictive than cocaine. And for the bones, since we are talking about bones, for the bones, it reduces the calcium and the magnesium. It reduces your absorption.
There you go.
So, even if you're eating great food and doing good things for your bones, the sugar is a real negative, and it really can affect.
Down to the cellular level.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, wow.
So I think that's the best tip. Start with, and some people have to go. I've seen both when I work with people. Some people have to do cold turkey. I did cold turkey, but other people can gradually, reduce a little bit. Like you only have one candy or whatever it is, or substitute. Substitute. I don't believe in deprivation, so I eat amazing food that's delicious. It's just healthy. So I think you can find substitutes for sugar, even if to start raw honey and other things. But it makes such a difference.
Yeah,
so that's
very cool.
So let's see. So we're up to number. What are we up to now? We're up to
we hit
number
the cells.
5? Yeah, so that's 5. Okay, so then we're going to the garden, which so I'm doing it like a house.
Okay.
So like who you're with, the people that surround you. That's really important. And we all emit chemistry. You can feel when someone's negative. It can impact you. So ideally, you want to choose people that you want to be with, that make you feel good. It's not always possible, if it's a family member or something else, but you really want to see who you're keeping company with, because who surrounds you makes a big difference in terms of, so that would be, who surrounds you.
Yeah. Your choices too. That's your choice, right?
Yes. And then sometimes you don't have a choice. So, as a physical therapist, I learned this great thing to do because I'm sure you have the same thing as a chiropractor. There are people that just have negative vibes, or just feel, you could leave the session feeling totally depressed because, and so,
an energy vampire.
Yes, and it zaps your energy. So what I learned to do, I would come home. There was one person in Chicago, and my husband knew exactly who I saw that day because I was so unhappy. But what you can do is you can block it. So I do two things. One is I will, if someone has that, I will actually create like a physical wall, like an invisible wall, not letting that come in. And then what I do, I send out like good thoughts. I send out all sorts of positive thoughts, and that seems to not be a problem anymore for me. I don't know. It seems to work in life too. If I confront someone who's just full of negativity, then that technique works as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. Very cool.
Okay. And then I think the last one is purpose. To have purpose in life, to have, to be on your purpose. So if you feel you're only doing things for yourself and you're not doing things that's your purpose or for the greater good, that you're not as people are much happier when they're doing things that also have more of an impact for the world and for other people. So
very cool. And I think that's neat because you need to be selfish for your health, but I think your happiness is something that's found doing that, but also like you said, that greater good is huge. I mean, contributing your time, energy, or money into something is always, it's never a sad moment.
Right. It really does turn things around for people because as I said, there's a lot of sad things that happen, and I understand that for sure. There's just a lot of, so when you're in that victim mode and just when you get out and when you start, being part of bigger movements, it makes such a difference and you feel great.
Yeah. So by practicing these techniques that you teach in your course, you said like we start at a level, right? We start like we have our own like set point.
Exactly.
Right, like our baseline or whatever you want to call it. So we can raise that baseline by implementing tactics and tools that are going to, raise our happiness bar, if you will.
Yeah, the interesting thing is what they've done. The research has shown that 50% of your happiness is genetic. 10% is based on circumstances. So it's only 10%. That's what everyone thinks is like the huge thing. Oh, this person has all these great things happening in their life, but it's only 10%. 40% is your habits. And now what they found with epigenetics is that we can even affect the genetics. So you have this huge window of things that you can change. And it's gradual. It's not like one day you're going to wake up saying you feel happy, but let's just say people start doing the positive thing I talked about, with the thoughts. They will notice, I would say within, a week that they're feeling better, or any of the things that, any of these little things, it really starts making a difference. And gradually, it's like a cup that's, either half empty or half full. But the more we can put in there and the more we can start switching it, doesn't matter where you start. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I've seen, because I see people who, for some reason, I don't know, a lot of the people I've been seeing are really start off like they just want to make it through the end of the day. They're not happy. But once they start implementing and finding their passion and doing things, it's amazing. And then their back pain's gone. Back pain's completely gone.
Like, oh, wow. Wait, hold on. That doesn't make sense. Yeah.
All these things I used to work so hard as a physical therapist, all these things that, all of a sudden it's the whole, everything's connected with people. So.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm reading a book now, and the gentleman, his name is Lewis Howe, he's actually a podcaster, but he speaks about, I don't remember the other person's name that he's quoting, but they created something called a habit manifesto, like what habits you need to start every morning with, whether it's journaling or like even like these tools that you talk about, like what things can we create as a daily habit, because nothing is an overnight fix, right? Even like you said, winning the lottery can be happy, but and this is true, we hear it in the news. I think there are even probably books about it. That people get happy, they win $100 million, and then next year they're broke.
That's it, because they have that. Exactly. I love what you said, because that's so true about habits. We can't just say, oh, we'll do it. We have to somehow make it a habit. And whether we tie it in with something we're already doing or whether we write it in our schedule, somehow we have to make it a habit for it to be sustainable and for it to be, or, everybody goes to bed. So before you go to bed, the gratitudes or whatever it is, or your wins for the day, but because you always go to bed, so you add it to that, or a morning routine. I think that's really important when people are trying to see how they'll incorporate these things into their life, to add it somehow to what they're doing or their schedule, because otherwise it doesn't really work.
Yeah. Well, true. And just so everybody listening understands, this is really neat. So there's a couple of terms I want to share with you, because as you apply these principles, we mentioned habit. Habit is important. Habit takes about 30 days of consistency, like based on research and science and people saying it, right? And Dr. Google. But we also understand that it's easy to lose that habit because your other habits have been ingrained for years, decades, a long time. So the term lifestyle is important because that means you've done that habit for 90 to 120 days, and it's a lot easier for things to stick when your body starts adding more happy, good things. The other things, it's not like pushing them away. Your body just doesn't want to do them anymore because the result on the good side, because your habits are so much better, right? That makes sense?
It's really true. I love that because, and when you work with people and see the changes, it's just so miraculous because, it's not that hard. That's the beautiful thing. And slowly, just like you said, and making it a habit. And then all of a sudden, you look back and you're like, wow, I feel so much better. And yeah.
So this is cool. So we got happiness, people. Isn't that pretty awesome? So I want to have Margie touch on a couple things though, because she is also an expert in osteoporosis. So Margie, if you just most people have heard the term, right? We'll agree on that at this point. But what is like a simple definition people could understand, and what are some tools and tactics to combat that? We know happiness does make a difference. We already discussed that on your down to that cellular level. What other things can people proactively do to combat osteoporosis?
Okay, great. So osteoporosis, by definition, means porous bones. So the bones, the structure of the bones is weakened, and the quality of the bone. So they're more likely to break. And the thing with osteoporosis is that everyone thinks it's a disease. I don't even call it a disease. I like to call it a condition for older people. But the reality is it's something that we develop most of our bone. 85 to 90% of our bone is developed in women by the time they're 18 and in men by 20. So what we do at that young age is critical. So it's all ages that people need to be doing things for their bones. So what are the and it's sort of like a bank. If you build up your bone early in life at all ages, you have more bone to draw upon if you do lose bone later in life. So I really think if people dealt with it and addressed it at an early age, it would be so reduced, the amount of people having osteoporosis. And right now it's huge. 50% of women, 1 in 2 women and 1 in 4 men will have a fracture in their lifetime due to osteoporosis.
That's crazy.
And no one, we worry about preventing our heart problems. We worry about other things, but we just don't think of our bones. So the 4 things, I look at 4 pillars with bone health. Number 1, there's many, but number 1 is exercise. Exercise is huge, and bones respond to the forces placed upon it. So what are the forces? Weight bearing, jumping, getting the weight through against gravity.
Yeah.
So anything that, you're walking, dancing, jumping. But for kids, do jumping jacks, just, do exercises or do things that, cause forces on the bones.
Yeah. So is that why people, I want to pause you for a second. I even think my dad even has one, or my mom has one of those little trampolines, like the little, 2-foot trampolines that they can jump on, for exercise?
The trampolines have lots of good things. They're good for lymph flow.
Okay.
In terms of osteoporosis, it's not that. It's still a good thing. It's not that much of a force, because it's so soft. But I'm a big advocate of the trampoline.
I was just curious. I'm like, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's still a good thing. You're used to getting some force, but it's really, we want
the weight bearing.
Yeah. So 1 is weight bearing, and the second is resistance exercises, strength training. So when the muscles contracting against a force, whether it's a weight, whether it's the machines at the health club, whether it's body weight, whether it's a resistance band. It's that tugging on the bone. So it's contracting, that pulling on the bone that's saying, hey, we need more force. So even twice a week, they've shown increases bone density. So I think doing strength training, being active, because a lot of kids today are sedentary, and I think that's a huge problem. And a lot of adults are sedentary. So anything people can do to get out and about is so important. So exercise, nutrition is key. We need the nutrients for strong bones. If we're eating a horrible diet, we're not getting the nutrients, our bones, it's going to affect our bones like it does everything else. Yeah. So I think that's very important, nutrition. And nutrition, digestion, because people who have digestive issues have serious reduction in bone density. It's one of the root causes that oftentimes isn't addressed, because you can be eating the food, but if you're not digesting it, you're not absorbing the nutrients. Yeah. So I think that's huge. Yeah. And then my other thing is happiness, as we talked about, and stress. Stress, the cortisol, which has been shown, that's like your body's own stress hormone. And so what that does, that reduces the osteoblasts, which are the bone building cells. So I think it's sort of, you need the exercise. Also with the exercise, I think balance is important. As people get older, if you don't use it, you lose it. And so, we want to reduce falls, but just by working on it, you can maintain and even improve it. So I think that, and in posture, I'm a big, today's day and age especially, I just can't take it.
That nursing home posture starting at like 10 years old or not even younger.
Right, you must see this all the time.
Like all the time.
I mean, that text neck is just beyond belief. And they've seen physical changes now. Yeah. So I can only imagine these people when they get older. And so
we're seeing degenerative changes, right? Because you mentioned posture in 11-year-olds. When I started practice 12 years ago, if I saw it in someone like in their 50s, I'd be like, okay, it's intermittent. Maybe they've had injuries in their life and so on and so forth. But I'm seeing 11-year-olds that haven't had an injury.
I mean, it's so sad. So that's, I think posture exercises at all ages. Yeah. And as we know, there's so much these kids could do and they'll be fine. But they just need to be aware of it. But anyway, so that those are the basic things in terms of, the good news with osteoporosis, I see this all the time, is we have to get to the root cause. Just like everything else. What is the root cause? Because like other things, some things manifest in the bones. There are people I've seen that they have a problem with gluten, and that was the problem, the inflammation with their bone density. So you could put them on all the medication in the world, but they needed to get off the gluten. So cause. I just think with osteoporosis, like so many other things, we need to address the root cause. And then when you do the exercise and everything else, people get better. And I can't even get over, I've seen such good results with improvement in bone density.
Yeah, I believe
with using natural methods. So it's great.
I believe it. I mean, and everybody think of this. I think you need to start with like your foundation of like eating the right way and the right foods and having the right digestion, because it's garbage in, garbage out. Always.
Exactly.
I mean, and what that means for your human body, for your structure, the house that we live inside, is if you have garbage in, you're producing bad cells, which are affecting your bones, but they're also affecting every single thing else. So there's no way you can become a healthier person by putting garbage in, even if you exercise every day, right? So I would say, I mean, this is my opinion, and I think we can all be entitled to this, but I think if you're not eating well, exercise is good. I mean, it's going to be beneficial, but the win is so much bigger if you're improving your cells down at that cellular level, right? And then moving.
That's so interesting, because I started as a physical therapist, and then my son got type 1 diabetes. And I saw when he was in college, and I saw the benefit of the diet. I saw how food completely changed everything with him. He could totally manage his condition with food. And that's when the bell went off, and a light bulb went off. That's what's missing. So I worked with people both ways.
Yeah, I believe
before I went back to school to study nutrition, I just worked as a physical therapist. And then when I said, that's missing. And once I added that nutrition piece, so many things happened. People's bones improve, but also they're over, just like you say, garbage in, garbage out. It's amazing. My own health, when I changed diet, I have Hashimoto's, a thyroid condition, and I was able to get off all my medication. I've been off for such a long time now. I was never heavy, but lost 14 pounds without doing anything. just some
Yeah.
minor tweaks in my diet. So it's amazing, the garbage in, garbage out.
It is so cool, you know. I mean, like people like yourself that I've interviewed in the past. I mean, Hashimoto's has come up multiple times. Like people healing themselves by putting the right things in their body. I mean, like, hello world. It's not because you're missing a medication in your life. We're not deprived of that. You're deprived of nutrients that your body needs to survive and thrive.
It's really true. And it's just amazing to me that sometimes it's not the first line of defense, that people go in, and they have, even my father-in-law has type 2 diabetes. And when he goes in, it's not, let's change your medication, not like, what are you eating? When we can completely affect his blood sugar with the diet. It's so interesting.
Everything. It's so crazy. Everything. Yeah. So this is great. I hope everybody's gotten something out of this. If not in happiness, you definitely got it on this, and vice versa, right? Because this is a broad topic and it's important. That's why we're in the lifestyle locker, because this is really about human beings becoming healthier and unleashing their human potential. So, Margie, I want to ask you one other question. I'm starting to ask this when I remember, because I'm a never-ending learner, never-ending reader. Are there any books that you've read recently that have like had a positive impact either on happiness or osteoporosis or overall health that you enjoy, or another podcast you're listening to? Because I want people to connect with you, but also because you're such an amazing person and you're always learning, like what other tools, what other places are you finding content to learn from?
Okay, that's a really, really good question. I'm trying to think about that because there's so many people who I admire and respect. In terms of the osteoporosis, I'm trying to think. That's a hard question.
All right. Well, anything happiness, or is there anything you're just enjoying learning from? And it can be outside of your world.
One of my teachers who I've did training with is Marci Shimoff, and I think she's absolutely incredible. And she teaches a course on miracles, which I think is quite
very
wonderful.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's been something that I've been a part of. I think in terms of, I love Andrea Nakayama. She's been an important person in my life, and she's a functional nutrition course that's incredible, that I've learned a lot from there too.
Oh, great.
I would say, yeah, I guess out of the two people, I like Jack Canfield. I think he's very inspiring, and I
love
like
him.
Yeah, I like him a lot. There's just a lot. I think.
Yeah, well, it's cool. You know, if you have a list, what I'll do, it doesn't need to be long. I mean, like 3 or 4 of your tops. You mentioned, send me an email. We'll put it in the show notes just so people can have.
Sure, absolutely.
Just because I love when people learn, and that's why I have this show, so they can learn about you and your expertise, but you have so much to share with the world. And then nobody's the expert of everything, which I love.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
We can spread this.
That's how I feel about the osteoporosis, because I know a small part of it, and there's so many people who have their own areas of expert, which isn't known in the general public. Like there's the person who does something with fluoride, how that has an impact on osteoporosis. And so I've started a podcast that's soon to be published, Happy Bones, Happy Life podcast, where I have different experts. It's because it goes way beyond me. I know my areas, but there's so much more.
That's so fantastic.
I love to, just like you, enlighten people with as much knowledge as they can get. So it's way, way beyond me. Great. So that's what I think that's why I love these podcasts, because you can bring people from all over together so that people can just learn and improve their lives. And it's just such a win-win situation.
That's great. Well, Margie, this is awesome. This has been such an awesome call. I learned a lot. I got my little pyramid here of happiness, which drawn out on a notepad right here. So I thank you so much. I think the audience is definitely gonna have some big wins, and you have a couple of giveaways which we're gonna share in the show notes. They're 2 quizzes, and what are they, webinars? Remind me what they are.
Well, there's 2 quizzes. One quiz is on the bones, and that's on finding root cause. Because a lot of people don't know hidden causes of bone loss. So that's one quiz, and the second quiz is what is your happiness level regardless of your circumstances.
Awesome.
So it's like, how happy for no reason are you? So that's a quiz. And then the bone one also goes into a web. I can actually share the webinar. I'll give you another one. The webinar as well.
Okay.
There's also a webinar on the four ways to strengthen bones naturally.
Oh, great. Well, you heard that, audience. Look how she's a giver too, right? That's what keeps her happy. And you're going to eventually see this video, and you're going to see she's smiling the whole time. So this is absolutely great. So, Margie, I want to thank you so much. This is fantastic. We'll have all the details about the quizzes and the webinars and all that stuff in the show notes and every way that everybody can connect with you via your website and social media. So what we're going to do, just so everybody knows, I'm going to give you the website link. So you're going to head over to lifestylelocker.com/Margie Bissinger. And if you just scroll in the show notes, don't try to spell it if you can't. It will be there for you, and it'll bring you right over to the website for all of her details. So, Margie, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. And thank you for the good work you're doing in the world. You're spreading lots of happiness.
Yes. Like a Nation, I hope you are happy and have stronger bones after listening to that episode with Margie Bissinger. Make sure you do connect with her. Head over to lifestylelocker.com/Margie Bissinger. And if you're too lazy to do that, I hope you're not, you can just scroll down in the show notes where you are listening right now and get all the details. She's got her happiness quiz there. And we also have a link directly to her online course. Should you want to check that out, I suggest you do. Happiness is something we need to have for a lifetime. All right, Locker Nation, have a happy day, evening, night, wherever and whenever you're listening to this. And we'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.